Good day, viewers around the world. My name is Mark Godwin Iweajunwa, and I'm back here with my friends, coordinators, on our Friday update, news update called Global World Affairs. We are here to give you our news update for our global audience also. Today, 12th of April, 2024. And I'm here with my coordinators, like I said, Olayinka Raji from Lagos, Nigeria. Olayinka Raji, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. Good morning, viewers across the globe. Good morning. Welcome to our Friday program.
Welcome to our Friday program. Thank you, Raji. Raji,
Yep.
a lot to talk about, but we're going to streamline it to the international updates. And we can't do that without Sajot Chukwu from Toronto, Canada. Sajot Chukwu, you're welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mike Godwin, and good morning, Raji. Good morning, viewers from around the world. Welcome to our show. Today is going to be a fantastic one indeed.
Amen.
Fantastic one indeed, gentlemen. But let's start with a small sad note. The man O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, yes, O.J. Simpson passed out on Wednesday. Let's see this little small clip on him. Some clip of him saying things a few days, weeks to his passing.
Hey, X-World, is me, yours truly. I haven't been around in a while, but today is kind of a special day because it was 66 years ago, 1957, that I attended my very first professional football game. And that game was the 49ers versus the Lions in what was a playoff game, which is unusual because they didn't really play playoff games, but the way the season ended, they needed to play a playoff game to see who would win, I guess, the West. Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. Well, it was a pretty interesting weekend. It started off, unfortunately, USC losing to our arch rivals.
Gentlemen, O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was that controversial former American football star. He died on Wednesday of cancer, like the family said. And O.J. Simpson, we all know his story, too many controversial things. He was nicknamed the Jews. O.J. Simpson, popular athlete in the 60s and 70s. Let me start with George. George, I know you know O.J. Simpson so well.
Yeah, we grew up with that story in America when in 1994 when the famous O.J. Simpson was accused of killing his ex-wife and the boyfriend, Ronald Goldman. And it was a very huge saga. It's one of those pivotal points in our history when the world was watching what was going on all around the world. And the nation was divided because the people that were involved and versus all the things that has been happening in the black community regarding putting black children in jail for simple marijuana and all those type of things. So the nation was basically, divided. And what happened was that, the case went to court, and we saw the famous Cochran, and then another one was the Kardashians. Their father was, one of the main, people, who defended OJ. And the famous thing, if it doesn't fit, you have to acquit. If it doesn't fit, you have to acquit. So that's what happened. But the story went on to the point where he was not found guilty, but was found guilty in a civil case for $33 million, which he didn't pay much of anything. But eventually he went to jail for 9 years. After 13 years, because he stole one of his memorabilia. So that's what happened. He came out of prison and has been staying in I believe in one of these cities. I think it was in what's the name of that famous city where you go and gamble?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. So that's where he was living. But he died of prostate cancer. But it's something that we need to really pay attention to. For men, we have to make sure that we screen ourselves regarding this prostate cancer, because he didn't survive it. He died at the age of 76, which to me is a young man. At least he should have stayed a little longer to enjoy his life. So that's what happened. So O.J. Simpson is gone at the age of 76.
O.J. Simpson is gone, viewers, at the age of 76. But before we go on with the O.J. Simpson story, let's bring in our diva lady, Fiona Akanu from the UK. Akanu,
everyone put your hands together.
How are you? It's good to see you.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here this Friday morning.
Nice.
Beautiful. Welcome, Fiona. You make us shine good. We're looking better now with you.
Okay. Raji, yes, OJ,
Yes.
controversial man, but there was something about him. His case was so controversial that he made 2 lawyers become icons. You know, George just talked about Johnny Cocker. Nobody knew Johnny Cocker until O.J. Simpson. Nobody knew the Kardashian father, the man that made these girls. You know, the whole family, the man that was the brain behind that family. Nobody knew them until O.J. Simpson's case, and the father came out as one of the lawyers. Now, the main thing in all of this is some people said he really did kill the wife, the ex-wife, and some people feel on Twitter yesterday they're saying he's now going to meet with her and they will be fighting. You know, so what was the take on that?
Any man born of a woman is bound to die. We all have a day with death.
Yes.
And my sincere condolences to his family. He was very, very loved by his family, in spite of all the controversies around him. I remember the chase, when the chase, where he was being chased along the main road and all those things. It was quite interesting. In fact, I think a film might have been made of it, because
a film was made out of it.
Yes, out of it. Yes.
And you know, one of the major problems.
Yes.
Go ahead, brother.
No,
one of the things I wanted to say was that he wrote a book. You know, the name of the book was "If I Did It," and that was, his undoing, because that book infuriated so many people that eventually the proceeds from that book went to the Ronald Goldman, family, because people were so upset. But also, one thing that I wanted to point out is he had to go to jail even for nothing, because they were looking for every excuse whatsoever. He dealt with a Jewish family and they did not forgive, and they don't forgive. That's something I wanted to mention. Yeah, go ahead, Raji. I'm so sorry.
So yes, Raji, he went to jail, but not for the one that was actually the crime. You know, he went to jail for something. And we remembered, like you said, the chase. He took the police on a lengthy chase around the road of America. Yes, go ahead, Raji. Go ahead.
He had to go to jail. He had to, for whatever reason. They had to find a reason to jail him, because it I mean, there was so much circumstantial evidence against him that if he had gone free, there would have been a serious case. In fact, I'm sure some people would have made it possible, would have gone after him and shot him. He had to be punished for something, for whatever it is, because all evidence pointed to the fact that he had the motive to have killed his old ex-wife and her boyfriend. He had to be something.
Okay, let's bring in Godwin, Dr. Godwin Ibe from Moscow, Russia. Dr. Godwin, you're welcome to News Echoes World Affairs.
Thank you so much for having me, Legends. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in.
Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Godwin Ibe, all the way from Russia. How is Putin doing this morning, by the way?
I don't know, but I assume he's doing well, because he has the best hands and best people around him.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to Putin. Fiona, yes, let's hear how do you feel? OJ made these girls, they now celebrate in the world. OJ lawyer, the Kardashians' father, that was the entry point to this celebrated thing for the girls. How do you feel hearing OJ passed on So maybe we're angry with the case, him and Simpson, the ex-wife, and all the things that followed after. Tell us, how is UK copying that?
I think the key thing is obviously somebody has died, so I think it's important to kind of express condolences for the family, which I think Sir Raji has done. In terms of the Kardashians, well, unfortunately, I don't know anything about them, so I'm not in a position to speak to that. However, what I will say is that this particular issue highlights the issues that arise when women try to leave their relationships, whether they're victims of DV or not. We've even had a case recently here in the United Kingdom where somebody who had said she wasn't interested in somebody anymore, he threw acid at her and her 2 children. So, I think for me, the key, in spite of all the drama and all the legend that this story has become, I think the bones of it is the fact that it is quite difficult for people to leave people who have a violent, destructive background. And I think this is the thing that we should be thinking about, the way people can escape. I'm not even just talking about women. There are also men who are in, man on man domestic violence. So for me, the thing that really concerns me in the whole case is this inability for women to be able to find refuge or find safety when they're leaving any kind of relationship. I think that for me, that's the key thing. So as much as there's been this is now a story of legend. We've talked about the race, we've talked about the commercial fallout or the commercial rise to fame of the Kardashians, etc., etc. But for me, that's not the core thing about this. For me, the core thing about this is when women want to depart from a relationship, can they just do it without having this fear of being shot, being killed, being stabbed, being thrown acid? That for me is the key thing that this has actually highlighted for me once again.
Strong talk. Godwin, did Russia hear about OJ? Was there any news on that? OJ, the former American footballer, passing on. Godwin?
Yes, it's usually reported in world news section, but it's considered one of America's issues. It's high crime rates and problems with migration and drugs. These are things like we see every day on the news, and also homeless people. So the risk of violence is really high when you have migration problems, homeless people, and the locals are kind of infuriated at or are questioning the interest of the government, if the interest of the government is on their particular borders, or if the interest of their government is across the Atlantic in Ukraine, for example. So these kind of things cause unrest. It's not. I don't have the competence to choose for Americans what they want. But all I can say is that it's very sad when you have domestic violence and when the interest of the electorate seems to not be taken into adequate consideration. Of course, O.J. Simpson, the motive was established, but the evidence is, I think, is still sketchy, in my opinion. But I believe that domestic violence is a real issue, but women are living at the best period in history in terms of the fact that the family court system in the US, for example, establishes cases not based on evidence, but based on likelihood. So there's a likelihood of somebody being attacked or a woman's life being in danger. She can be given, the right documents to restrict the female partner. So there are a lot of checks in place in terms of the females in the family court system, but for the male, they don't have such kind of protection, and they don't have such protection from the family court, and the violence on man to man is also a very big issue, but it's just not giving us much publicity. Of course, we also have the suicide rate and the joblessness in terms of, a man doesn't really have values, really born into the world with value. You have to establish your value. You have to fight for your mating rights. You have to the world view system. And I don't say it's not a complaint, it's a reality and a fact of masculinity, and which every man has to strive towards and live towards. And so sometimes those
are we still talking about O.J. Simpson? Or
Okay, yes.
No, I'm talking general. Just let me finish. I'm speaking generally. Let me finish. You're interrupting. Just give me 1 second.
We have very small time. Please.
Okay, no problem.
Like I always tell you guys, let's keep it to the topic, and many more things to talk about, so we don't burn out the time, and we have these viewers listening and watching. And you remember they are here to get updates. Yes, thank you very much, Godwin. OJ is gone and died at 76. The controversial football player, and our condolences to the family. So, guys, let's move on. Let's move on. Come on. Let's move on to what's happening in different parts of the world. There are different things happening, and some of those things are lessons for us to learn. A Vietnamese real estate tycoon. They call her Trunog Milong. She's the chair lady of an estate company in Vietnam. Now she's going to be killed. She's been sentenced to death because of fraud that is amounting to 12.5 billion naira. That is about 3% of the country's GDP. Gentlemen, it's nice to know that some countries still have what you call rule of law, and they stick to it regardless of what goes on. George, let me start with you. Hearing this from Vietnam, how do you feel? The woman has been sentenced to death.
Well, I don't know about killing this woman for such a crime. I mean, it's a heinous crime. Trong My Long, that's her name. This is one of the greatest crime ever committed, according to them. And it's involving $44 billion. And she controlled this thing in 11 years, and quite a few number of people were also sentenced to life in prison, some 17 years or whatever the case might be. But I don't know about killing her. I mean, because of such a crime, the amount of money involved was incredible. And so my question is, some people that kill people will still be living, but a woman, just simply because that she committed a crime, in the real estate industry in its country, if you really look into this case very closely, it's almost akin to the same thing that is happening in the U.S. with the former president of the United States of America. The same kind of fraud that she perpetrated and succeeded is something they're accusing Trump of. And nobody dared to say that you're going to kill Trump or anything like that. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not trying to tell them how to live their lives in Vietnam, but, to kill her, give her a life sentence. Why are we killing this woman because she committed a crime? She didn't kill people. There are thousands of people taking guns and killing people all over the place, and they're still living. And then just because she committed a fraud, which in the U.S. they will consider to be a white-collar crime.
Okay, George,
that's what it is.
George, you should know this. You should know that in that part of the world, that's what they get for such a crime. It's not just.
I know. No, I'm not telling them. I don't think it's
104 boxes of items weighing about 6 tons, and all of these items were brought to court, and it's all traced to her and all her crime. Raji. Well, we know that that's what they do in those countries. I mean, it's not today. Philippines, Vietnam, Louis, all these parts of the world, even China. The list goes on and on. Burma. Go ahead, Raji.
I believe that she has just proven to us that what a man can do, a woman can do more. Better or worse. Yes. Because I couldn't just imagine the humongous amount of money involved, up to is it 25% of the GDP of the country? Wow, she must be great. I don't think she should be killed. I think the government should learn from her to see how they can prevent such kind of fraud ever happening again. I think he shouldn't be killed. I think the government should learn from her.
Well, it's about 3% of the country's GDP as in 2022. Yes. The money she took. The decision was made by some group of persecutors, and even the bank, the commercial bank that she took loans from, were also evidence. Dr. Godwin, before we come to Fiona, Dr. Godwin, you know these things happen, and these people know that it happens in their country. They all know, Chinese, Vietnamese, all of them know that the law for this is killing, but they still go ahead and do it. How come you know where your crime will take you to, and you still want to commit that crime? Dr. Godwin, are you with us?
No, I believe she knew about the consequence of her actions, but I think at the point she must have felt invincible.
I think that's the point.
And decided to not just steal the little she was comfortable with stealing, but to expand exponentially to astronomical figures. I'm hoping that she's beyond the reach of the law. But with that being said, I still don't think she should be killed. I think the money could be used to better use. If she didn't really kill anyone directly, she can be punished in other ways. But once again, it's not for me to tell Vietnamese how to live their life. They have their laws, they voted for it. If that's the punishment, well, we can only watch from a distance. But my personal opinion, I don't think she should be
killed. Thank you. Fiona, it's a sad thing, but Lady Trogim Milan is going down. She's been sentenced to death. And sad. Now, let's put it to our context in our country. George was talking about America, Trump, but our country is worse. Our leaders perpetrate more crime than this, and they even walk gallantly on the roads of Nigeria.
Oh, they are chieftaincy titles for them.
And they are giving chieftaincy titles. We all know of the chief accountant and how much he took. And he came out and got chieftaincy title, and a village gave him 2 wives. A village brought their daughters and said, listen, you're the king, marry our 2 daughters with stolen money. Fiona?
Yeah, so I mean, I was actually going to start what I was going to say by saying, thank goodness that we don't have this in Nigeria, because we might be struggling for leadership at the moment. I mean, if this is the way that things are dealt with in her country of Vietnam, then that's what it is. Do I agree with it? I'm not necessarily saying I agree that she should be killed, but it is what it is. However, I read a comment from somebody who had been personally impacted by what happened, and she was actually saying that she wishes she wasn't going to be killed. She wishes she was going to be alive so that she could see the journey that people who have lost their entire life savings, what they're going through, because the backlash of this is that there are people who have invested and they don't have anything in their retirement because of this lady. So I actually read somewhere where this lady was saying, actually, I don't want her to be put to death because that's the end for her. I want her to be alive so that she can keep revisiting the pain that she has visited upon us. So, but I mean, from a human rights point of view, I think killing her is probably something that I personally would say is extreme. But then, as Dr. Godwin said, and as I think we always echo, that listen, at the end of the day, those are the rules in the country. That's what they voted for. If that's what it is, that's what it is.
If that's what it is, that's what it is. Gentlemen, that's what it is. So we have to also think about how this can come into Africa. Africa, not only Nigeria, Africa needs to have a rethink of its law. The other time, we were saying this, guys. We were talking about how they could revisit some of these lethal injections, execution, and all of that in Africa, because a lot of people are walking away with heinous crime against humanity, and they walk away with it, and they even become kings in their community. So this is it, viewers. The lady is going down, 67-year-old Vietnamese real estate tycoon, Truan My Linh, chairperson of that company, has been accused of fraud amounting to 12.5 billion and has been sentenced to death for fraud. So let's go on with stories now. More stories on the line. Guys, we want to look into something very serious. We're all going to talk about this because in every of our edition, we bring in a social issue that needs to be talked about. And we're talking about suicide. Suicide, guys. The report came out yesterday that there's a rise in young people around the world committing suicide. It's in Africa, it's in Asia, it's in America, it's in Europe. Young people are committing suicide. Reasons we're giving, but let's hear reasons. Let's hear from you guys. Let me start with George. Suicide is in the increase. People are killing themselves. They are hopeless. Boom. They go.
No, we've come to a place in our society around the world today where people, just, I mean, the system is basically, dividing people. The way things are these days, you see a young person, in a family. You know how we used to live when we have that communal type of living. You go to school. Your parents go to work in the evening. Everybody stands together. Come together in the evening. We have dinner together, and then after that, we watch TV together. These days, it's no longer that way. People are just living their own lonely lives, and most young people these days, they don't even know how to communicate anymore, because with that communication is part of communal interaction that enhances that togetherness within a family unit. And then you can go to your neighbor's house, knock at the door, and if they're having dinner, you have dinner with them. You don't need an invitation. But these days it's no longer the same. I told you guys a story of what happened one time. I went to a friend's house, and the father went to the girl's house to come, bring her down to come and greet us. And this young lady yelled at the dad, never to come to her room again. And then the dad was complaining that she goes to school, comes back, eats, and will go to her room. They don't see her again until the following day. So, and then you don't know what they are really doing with their phones. Most of the time it's just not about, it's just crazy. So these are the things that can, enhance that particular type of attitude. When they're being abused by friends or whatever, they don't speak to their parents anymore. So sometimes they end up killing themselves. And these, because we are coming to that place in our community, in our society right now, people are just so lonely. And most of the time it ends up happening. So there are many other reasons why this is happening, but let me give other people opportunity to talk about it. But this is very serious, and it's happening all over the place.
George, you spoke so well about this. Thank you for that point you brought out. Let's hear more of this. Fiona, it's also growing high in the UK. They say you showed me something the other time, Fiona, and one of those things that is adding to it is prescribed drugs and opioid and all these high drug and all these things people are taking now that is so available on the streets. So Fiona, tell us what's happening. High rate of suicide in the world, young people killing themselves.
I think part of the reason for this very unfortunate trend is a complete breakdown of what was society. I think that in terms of anchors, whereas probably when I was growing up, there were lots of anchors like religion, family, the structures were quite tight. But at the moment, I think those structures have fragmented slightly. I believe that social media hasn't really improved the situation either, because there's an immediacy that happens with social media that's not real. It's not real almost. And people are seeing images and believing the images they're seeing when they're not actually real life. They're not people's true existences. And people and young people in particular are battling to meet up to those expectations and getting themselves into all sorts of mental health challenges. The mental health environment here in the United Kingdom has struggled very much over the last sort of 20 years, but especially post-COVID, we've had just tranches and tranches of people waiting to be seen by medical health professionals because they're waiting on the national health system. So I think that so there are a myriad of things that bring about this problem. I think social media doesn't help. I think the fragmentation of the family and the society doesn't help. I think and I just think that lack of any proper anchor. I think those are the main factors. I did read the article about access to opioids, in particular for young women, which these things are easy to obtain off prescription on the streets, and all those things don't really help. I've had personal experience of this here in the United Kingdom, and it's a very sad, traumatic event, not just for the young person involved, but for the people that they leave behind. When I was growing up, I used to think, well, it was not a Nigerian problem, but actually, I can think of a few families that I know that have been affected directly by suicide. So it's a real big problem, and I think talking, openness, and doing your best to kind of keep your family unit together, so that when there are issues, you can talk and resolve them. I think those are the key things really that I think.
Good one again. Raji, okay, we just lost Raji there. Okay, Godwin, I wanted you to take the last take, but let's hear from you. The economic conditions too could be adding to this. Unemployment, high unemployment, increased poverty. It's a situation that is all over. It's not, no part of the world is left out on this. Everywhere, Russia, Asia. So what's your take on this, Godwin?
I think the most important thing is to recognize that it's a global problem. Yes, it's not just one country, but some of the data I see are old data. Try to look up the data, and some of them are not measured, because obviously there's no access to measure it on a year-by-yearly basis. So some data is new, some are old, but the whole picture is still kind of constructed. Obviously, there's a social apathy based on this living on the internet, working from home, and the lack of activities that bring people together, and also the how do I put it, the tendency for people to not hold themselves accountable is increasing daily. For example, most people, instead of blaming themselves based on their choices, would say things like mental health, even though it's real. Of course, mental health is a real problem, but the speed at which people claim mental health for every single mistake they make, which is based on their choice, is also leading to increased time with therapists, and which is good for the medical people, but at the same time also dependence on drugs, which affect the neurochemical system. So it's a negative feedback, and it leads to more suicide.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, we're going to come to Raji, but viewers, let's go on a small break. Listen, this topic, we're coming back to it. It's vital. It's important. I want you to look at ways that this could be avoided. Godwin just said something very important: interaction. People are no more interacting as we used to. But let's look at ways. Let's look at more solutions that could stop this. I mean, our little voice here could add to saving this situation around the world. But let's go on a break. We'll be back. Viewers, you're into SSM Global Africa, Global World News, and we'll be back. Thank you.
A year ago, I wrote a book titled The Final Solution, and I was trying to say to the rest of the world that there are challenges ahead. Now, a prophecy did come, and that prophecy is coming to pass. But I'm telling you, the final solution has been found many years ago in the Bible, because the Bible simply says righteousness exalts a nation and sin is a reproach to the people. So I want you to know that we can get solutions to problems in Ukraine, in Russia, in Nigeria, indeed all parts of the world. We need that solution, and the solution is straightforward. Please get a copy of my book. It's the Final Solution by Bishop Shegun Johnson, and you can find it in Kindle, in Amazon. Just type Bishop Shegun Johnson, The Final Solution. It will come. It's very, very small book you can read within 2 hours, but it contains the final solution. Do get a copy. Not getting it is doing disservice to humanity. Don't forget The Final Solution.
Yes, viewers, you're tuned in to our Friday program, News Echoes World Affairs, and we are doing it like we normally do. Thank you for tuning in, viewers. George, let's wade into more of the solution. It's a serious issue. People are committing suicide, young people. You all have said it well. Now, can we help with some of the solution? Can we?
Well, the only situation is a very, very sticky situation. I know how many people that up until today, that I've held, by encouraging them not to go that way of killing themselves. And you will never know what is, I'm serious, not a joke at all. People are locked up in their rooms. They're going, they wake up in the morning, they walk, and then they don't go out, they go out, get some food and come out. All of a sudden, the normal things of what we used to call the social interactions are no longer it is. If you go to, looking into the statistical analysis of all of this, you see higher rates like in Lesotho, 87 point something % of the people are committing suicide.
That's it.
Then it's amazing. And then you're asking yourself, why is that so? Even in Africa? Can you imagine that? And it gotta be something, it must do with something with the economic situation where maybe a man, that cannot see a way to feed the family and then want to take the path of least resistance. Then you come to the profession where, can you imagine that the profession where more people are dying is even psychologists and this, psychiatrists? Can you imagine that? These are the people that are supposed to be helping people, and then yet they are the ones that are killing themselves the most. And why is that? Because they're not able to interact with others. They feel like, I'm a demigod in this situation. They absorb all kinds of mess from people, but they don't have an outlet. You see, why do you think that men die more frequently than women? It's because of communication. Most of us, we don't have anybody that we can interact with when we're going through things. But the woman will always have somebody they can pour their hearts out to. And the woman is more apt to talk about their situation, emotionalize it and push it out there. We store everything within, and one day it will explode, or one day you will see us just ending it because we feel like there is no way out. But the situation is, I think the major solution to this, social interaction, openness, the willingness to be able to communicate, find what you call an accountability partner, somebody you can pour your heart out to, a non-judgmental individual that you can pour your heart out to, review yourself to, and let it out there. And that's the reason why, today, even the youth, when you want to communicate with a youth, once you go beyond how you doing. They feel offended. They feel like you are, just trespassing in their own space. And that's why most of the time, because of lack of communication, they end up killing themselves. They can't even discuss with their parents what they're going through.
Reggie,
may I
come in now.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. I listened to George, and I want to address something George said about men finding it much more difficult to discuss their issues. You see, it's most unlikely that a man will discuss his issues with the cause of his issues, which is the woman. So
okay,
it's a simple fact. Because, but then talking seriously, society has been so fragmented that the usual social cohesion that used to keep people together has been broken. Now, whereas while we are growing up, we could find answers from our parents. Our children find answers with Google or with Wikipedia, so they don't come to us. So when they have any issues, they discuss among themselves among the social media. You see? So that communication we have to, and then it has to be built from birth. I made it a point to be having discussion with my children, especially on very difficult issues that concern them. But look, find it easy to come to me. When you come to me, I have a listening ear for you. Please come to me with any issues that you have. I will not blame you. I will not judge you. I'll talk to you one-on-one. Wow. The moment that communication link is broken, the children will be finding succor somewhere else.
That's it.
It's very, very unfortunate that the rate of suicide has gotten so up. It is also because people are losing hope. Hope springs eternal from the human breast. When there's no hope, there's nothing anybody can fall back to. So it's a combination of so many things: social bonds being broken, being shattered, people being individual silos of individual silos where they find all their answers in silos, which are different from which are remote from other silos. And therefore they come to a point where they think that, there's nothing else for them to do other than to die. As I'm sitting down here, even natural death frightens me. So I can't even imagine myself going to commit suicide.
Thank you, Reggie. You said it so well. Let's come to Fiona. Fiona, the numbers are really going high, and me and you talked about some reasons earlier on. Economic conditions, like we said, also people losing hope, like Raji just said now. Fiona, what do you think?
I think what the gentleman that spoke before me, Sir George and Sir Raji, I think what they said is really the key thing, being able to have these open conversations. I know, and I'm going to speak to the Nigerian Black demographic. I know that things like suicide are a taboo and we shy away from it, or there's mental health issues, we shy away from it. I've heard of people saying, their children need medication because maybe they're ADHD or manic depression, saying, well, no, they're going to pray about it. I think it's really important to be able to have these open conversations. As a parent, I can tell you from personal experience that the kind of conversations that my daughter brings to me sometimes, I don't know. I actually don't know what to do, because she's telling me stuff that I could never in my right mind have said to my mom. But and the work in that for me is remaining completely straight-faced and non-judgmental, not because I'm happy with what she's telling me, but because I need her to be able to speak to me. So I think that's part of it. And that constant conversation, sometimes my friends will have, when the kids were a bit younger, they'll have gatherings for the kids and they're not allowed to bring their phones, because what used to happen is they'll all get together and they're all on their phone. So they're not paying attention to each other. They're not having a conversation. They're sending each other texts in the same room, those sort of things. So I think that ability to communicate and also to find answers completely outside of this social media experience, be it the World Wide Web, etc., being able to talk to people so that people are able to help you with bringing out, because none of these things are really the end of the world. I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the young boy that went to my son's secondary school that committed suicide. And, when it gets to the crux of it, nothing is really that bad. Nothing is really that bad. And it's important to be having these sort of conversations with the youth in particular, so that they're able to confront these issues. I have somebody very close to me and within his group. And when I say group, I'm talking about youngsters. 4 people committed suicide within his group of people he knows. Even when I found out, I was shocked. So he started having, depressive episodes and ended up on medication. And this is somebody that I carried as a baby. So it's not, so it's a very real problem. And talking, communication, openness, I think is the crux of it. And trying to, as much as possible, to be non-judgmental when people come to you with their problems. I think that's it.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you. Real talk. I think we'll really make our time for this topic. It's some serious. Godwin, you are.
I think we should do that, because this is so important. Honestly speaking, we need to really pound it out there, because you can save a life just by just coming across this type of conversation, to understand that these things, like what Fiona is saying, it might look so serious. Look at the young man that was being harassed by 2 young Nigerian guys, from Michigan, that killed himself, because was sexual exploitation and all those type of things. And they cannot discuss those things. They don't want this thing to come out on the social media. And then they were trying to hijack and get money from him, and he ended up killing himself. These are little things. And I used to tell people, TTSP. It doesn't matter what you are facing. TTSP. These two shall pass. These two shall pass.
Let's hear from our doctor, Dr. Godwin. It's crazy. Yes.
Yeah. Let's start with the causes. I think I started it, but let me just put them into categories. Like the first category, which we know, is the mental health disorders, bipolar, anxiety, post-traumatic, and all of that. But then there's also the biological aspect. So if there's a family that has depression, and there's a very high likelihood that many people in that family also have depression and suicide. So it has a biological component. Now, if we take those two apart, biological, mental health, we have the life events and social factors. So life event, traumatic experiences and all of that, exploitation, abuse and all of that. And then the social factors, who do you have around you? Who can you talk to? Who supports you? And all of that. But in this, I want to highlight the uncommon, unorthodox things that causes high suicide. Number 1, single mothers. Single mothers are the big causes of suicide. There's a significantly, multiple research have been performed. There's most of the psychopaths in the society are raised by single mothers. So also most of the suicide people who commit suicide are by single mothers. And then you will say, why is that so? Because being judgmental is also good. It teaches people how to take accountability. Instead of being judgmental to the point that you want to destroy someone, there should be a room and allow people should be trained to accept constructive criticism. And that's the reason what single mothers do not do. Why do men don't always tell themselves? Because if you tell a man your issues, your problem, or your failures, he will judge you. Say, man, you messed up. You did, how could you do that? You're so stupid. But when girls talk about their issues, it's not you, go girl, you're better than this, yeah. And that's the kind of conversation they have, which is social, some kind of social support. But it removes the accountability, and when you're without that social support, you're left out in the open. So it's and then firearms is also a leading cause of death in places like the United States. They have to kind of reach a resolution. Does everyone have firearms, or firearms should be removed from everybody and given only to special people? I mean, it's a fight between Republicans and Democrats, but they have to kind of reach a resolution on that. on which way forward. But you cannot have a lot of people having arms without everybody not having it, or nobody has it and only the police have it, and make the laws very strict so that they don't get it. But you cannot have in between, because there are lots of people who can use it.
Sorry, can I go speak to something that Dr. Godwin said? Sorry, I just need to revisit it quickly. So you said something about the judgmental aspects. I just want to speak to that quickly. So when I talk about judgment, I talk about the things that certain people, I'm not, casting aspersions at anybody, that certain people feel are unorthodox. So for example, I believe that somebody that committed suicide did it because he didn't want his parents to know that he was gay. So for me, I don't think that, because you said about being judgmental, of course, I think at the right time. So if my daughter came and said, well, I tried crack last night, it's not something I would say, oh, that's a fantastic thing you're telling me. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm advocating. So please don't misunderstand. But I think that when a child is suffering with things like, oh, I don't know, thinking that, they may be, homosexual or whatever the word is, that I think that there is a way that this needs to be tackled, instead of somebody taking that internalizing that as a problem and leading to this sort of thing. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm absolutely never going to advocate that somebody's doing the wrong thing and we pat them on the back and say, oh, you go girl, or well done my daughter for doing the wrong thing. Absolutely, categorically, I would never align with that.
Thank
but
you.
I'm saying that.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Fiona. Okay. Yes, gentlemen, we'll come back to this thing. Let's run with what we have left. It's okay. What we do is we're going to put out a special program on this, and I see that the viewers are just listening, because it's a human thing. That, I mean, what we're saying is real vital to us as human beings. Let's go to some current affairs again now. Ukraine, Russia updates. Godwin, yesterday we saw what you call a key power plant in Ukraine, in Kyiv, being blown up. And the story is Russia did that. Is that true? Godwin, can you give us update on that? We saw that thing. Godwin, so they said the scale of destruction is very terrifying. Fire broke out in that plant, and it says it's a Russian strike. Come on, Godwin, we're listening. Right.
Yes, as I understand, the energy infrastructure left the group chat. Obviously, it's a sad turn of events. But obviously, you can't keep on poking the bear and not expecting it to react. For many years, especially with the terrorist attacks that happened in Russia, the over the years, loss of lives of Russians in the Donbass has been complained to the United Nations. We see the United Nations as it is today. For example, whatever Russia is doing, whatever Israel is doing, whatever the United States is doing, it basically can't stop it. It just calls people together and they just discuss. The politics of the big powers are obviously different from the politics of the small nations, and it's something you have to live with. That is why I always push for diplomacy and then talks among the big powers, so that we can kind of be talking and try and find some compromise for peace to reign. But the fact is that we are having a change of stance from defeating Russian military on the battlefield to stalemate to now Russia is winning. Now Ukraine has said without US support that Ukraine is over. That's from the words of Zelensky. But a lot of people I listen to and I hear say that it's no more a good investment for the United States if the artillery ratio is 10-1. That's a very terrible investment. So we'll see what turns out.
Okay, we see how it goes on. Also, they said what we got yesterday was 8 missiles and drones were targeted at that point. That was yesterday morning, and a lot of infrastructures and a lot of things were destroyed. And this is actually,
should that not be one of the human, I mean, I don't understand. Okay, shouldn't this be one of those things that the international world should say it shouldn't be done? Because you are taking down their, where the grid, where they get their lights from and the food and everything. So this is affecting the humans that are in that particular country. And then we are talking, Dr. Godwin, I'm sorry to say this, but every conversation we've had, you've always become an expert in the United States and putting them down. But here we are, here in Russia now, going after this grid that is going to destroy lives in that place, and you don't even want to, touch that particular subject there as the reason why should Russia go after Kyiv and one of the largest grid.
I just did touch this.
No, because you need to really talk about it. You need to be balanced in what you're saying. Because I've heard about O.J. Simpson, you blame US, and then every subject here you have to find a way to blame United
O.J. Simpson is a US problem.
I didn't blame the US. I blame the person
you are
O.J. Simpson is a US problem.
Every particular situation you have. Excuse me, let me finish. Every situation was listening, and I keep on laughing over this situation because every situation you have to find a way to, bring, demonize the US. Here
there was no demonization in my speech.
People are going to
I said what exists.
Food are going to be destroyed.
Gentlemen,
can I
come in? Mr. Mark, can I just come in?
I always condemn all violence and promote
let's hear him
every single time. And I've been consistent in that. I condemn all forms of violence and I always promote peace and diplomacy. It's always my stance. But it doesn't mean I don't understand the rationale behind every single thing that goes in every geopolitical region of the world. And I just tell you the way it is. And when I have to say this person is accountable for this, yes. Is it true that the big powers play by different set of rules? Yes, it's true. Is it true that there are loss of lives? Yes, it's true. Is it true that negotiations will help to minimize those things?
Say it. Don't scale over it. Because when I tell you, if you
gentlemen,
somebody's doing anything wrong, I will bring it up.
If you didn't listen, it's on you. But I said
you do is, you scale over it.
Raji, go ahead.
Gentlemen, yes, there are terms of engagement during a war. There are terms of engagement. I read about 2 weeks ago, Ukrainian attempt to bomb a Russian power plant. And I said, look, if they go that far to bomb a Russian nuclear power plant, they are putting themselves out for trashing. Because if there's a war, there are terms of engagement. You should, as much as possible, not go after those areas that will cause more hazard to the general public than to the soldiers you are facing.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised actually that Russia had to bomb that infrastructure in Ukraine.
Are you condoning what Ukraine
did?
Are you condoning what Ukraine did?
No. I was actually warning Ukraine that they are going to use 1 shilling to borrow $10. Because they are going to be in a case for trashing. If you attempt to bomb a nuclear facility in Russia,
there's been lots of power plants that have been bombed in Russia. The Crocus City terrorist attack every day, even as we spoke today, there were drones that were fired in Crimea, in Belgorod, in Rostov. Today, drones were fired at civilians. There was use of phosphorus, a chemical weapon, in Donbass by the Ukrainian side, allegedly, and I'm using the word allegedly, but I saw videos, but I'll just use the word allegedly. So there's chemical weapons, there's drones attacks, there's damage on oil facilities occurring in Russia by Ukrainian drones. Have you condemned any of those? What I'm saying is that
I will condemn them.
I condemn all violence.
You're saying it's an allegation. You should not be afraid to condemn when lives are being lost because of this kind of action. Look at the budget talking about Ukraine. He will not condemn what happened in Russia. I mean, where are you guys coming from?
Why would I?
Yes.
If something
when a midget has the confidence to slap a giant, if a midget has the confidence to slap a giant, it should be ready for trashing.
You see?
Yes.
So
because Ukraine has been bombing Russian infrastructure.
Russia has the right to
So I'm not
self-defense, and
surprised that
the US has the right to self-defense in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. Israel has the right to self-defense, like it's destroying lives in Gaza. Why Russia doesn't have the right to self-defense? If it's attacking, to respond, and it has the.
Let's move on. Let's move on, guys. Well, a lot of destruction has been done to that place. It says terrifying. And it says Russia deliberately, systematically targeted those Ukraine energy system.
Mark, you should talk about Ukraine targeting Russian facilities as well. That's a one-sided reporting because we just talked about it as of today.
Let's come to business.
Unnecessary.
Let's round this up with business.
Unnecessary
we have the Hamas-Israel update also. Israel has threatened to direct strike in Iran if it attacks its own soil too. Does anybody have any update on that? Israel saying this early this morning.
Yes, nuclear facilities. Yes,
that they were going to strike Iran if they try anything. And now we were seeing more escalation of all of this instead of a reduction of these confrontations. You know.
Yes,
it's terrible. It's terrible. Okay, let's come to business news. There's an interesting news. But it's been on for some time, and that's far away in Australia. Australia banks are shutting down all of its branches because they are going purely digital. And this was what we were talking about Wednesday. Femi Oke was telling us how he wants Nigeria to also embed that culture. So we're going digital, but how will this work for the future for people, countries? Because not too many people are tech savvy. Not too many of those systems also is tangible. Some of these digital things fail. Now, if they want our money to go digital, how secure is our money? Guys, Fiona, how will it be if you guys don't have to go to bank again, or you're doing everything online, everything, no more bank, no more branch, anything, finance? How will it be in the UK?
Well, I think the high street banks have done a good job of reducing the number of outlets they have anyway. I can't remember when last I went into a physical bank, maybe 6 years ago, something like that. I don't have any business going into a bank. There's nothing I can do from my house really. So I don't really have any business. If anybody's giving me money, they put directly into my account. So I don't really need to mess around going to anywhere. And really the absence or lack of availability of actual bricks and mortar banks has made it absolutely impossible. The closest high street to where I live, when I moved into the area, had about 6 banks, building societies, and now there are none there. None. There's not one. So it wasn't really something we had to be told about. We just had to move with the times and get on with it. So I think
get on with it. Thank you, George.
The industry.
Are you guys going digital in Canada? Yes.
Well, we have been like I don't know. I don't deal with cash anymore. Mostly. Every now and again I might, but mostly almost 90% of my transactions are done. Basically, through digital. So we're going there, but the point is, Australia could do that because number one, do not forget, they have constant lights, and most of the people there are able to, even the elders, sometimes you can teach them some of these little things, and they will be able to learn because of where they are from. But when you go to the third world countries, it becomes an issue. Not that we should not be, moving towards that direction, for those that are educated and enlightened enough to do that. But you cannot gun ho and say, everything goes digital. We can educate them. We can try to do that because even most of the elders today, they still are not able to deal with that situation when it comes to digital, transactions and stuff like that. So, it's happening in Canada.
Yeah, thank you very much, George. Before we come to Godwin, Raji, we saw when the CBN did the color of money, we saw people bringing out money from tanks on the ground, rotting money. I mean, Africa still puts money on the ground in the pit, holes and tanks and crazy. So now they are talking digital. Can we make it up? Can Nigeria, can Africa meet up and go digital? Make ease of money flow.
You can't just jump into digital in our circumstance. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure. And you see, when MFLA attempted it, I don't think he attempted in good faith, because there's no infrastructure whatsoever. Okay. And there's no way I'm going to buy peanuts from the woman down there and we'll do transfer, and she will go to the house man who brings his products to the market and will be doing transfer. No. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the culture yet. It's something that we have to develop. Now, a lot of people accept transfer. We are just building on that. We can't just jump into it. There's still a lot of look at Japan.
Thank you. Yes. Let's go. Godwin, tell us. Digital. Australia says all the banks branches close. Let's begin to do it online.
No, I don't think Australia will do that. Australia won't close all branches. Forget all those things. The thing is that Australia didn't initiate anything. Australia is only following the lead of the people. As at 2021, more than 80% of Australians didn't visit their bank branch. 80%. So bank branches were just open, not servicing people. And so they are responding to the savvy nature of the citizenry. That's make them. Russia is also doing this. Russia has a digital currency. It's in testing phases, and it will be expanded very soon to the whole public. And also, it has something interesting in the sense that as at 2022, it was pegged with gold, so it has an intrinsic value. And Iran, Russia, a lot of countries are now trying to come together to form a digital or regional currency that is backed by gold. And it's also President Putin has also signed the digital currency into the tax code, so you can pay tax with digital currency, and also you can use digital currency for settlement of foreign trade settlement. That's for evading sanctions and for paying for things that are abroad. So it's legalized. And you can obviously we also have parallel import and other things. So Russia is really ready. That's why the sanctions don't really affect us, unfortunately.
Okay, good one.
Beautiful. Just a point. When you look at the distribution of population in Australia, more than 90% of Australia is uninhabited. The people of Australia live along the coast, and it's a very few areas, so it's easy for them to control to start digital whatever they want to use.
Okay.
You have to look at the of Australia.
Guys, we're breaking out. We're breaking out.
So can I ask Raji something, please?
Our time is
yes, please.
Raji, why are you blaming MFLA about the coloring of our money when it was Buhari who mandated him to do so?
Okay, yeah.
No,
guys, let's break out.
The devil is in the details.
Please,
it's in the details. Yes.
Something happened yesterday. Let's just say put our condolence out. A former minister of Nigeria, Ogbonnaya Onu, he was a politician, an author, and an engineer, died yesterday. He was the first governor of Abia State, and during Buhari's time, the Minister of Science and Technology. He passed on yesterday, age 70-something. I can't get that now.
73.
Yes. So you all know that SSM stands for Unified Nigeria, Great Nigeria. And when news like this come in, we want to send our condolence. George, go ahead.
Yes.
Do it on behalf of everybody. Tell us.
We extend our sincere condolences to the family. And then we hope that the Almighty God will, just strengthen you guys in these days of mourning. And we are proud of what the contributions that the man made around, within our communities and especially in Abia State. But also, in doing this, I don't know, there's news about this actor, Pope. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Yes.
Is it true that he finally died? Is it true that he finally died?
Announced,
Yes,
Okay, so
it seems so.
Okay, so we extend our condolences, because there are two others that, fell with him. We don't know what happened, what their fate, is, whether they died also. So our condolences to all the families that are involved in this. It's just a sad story. And then also, like, I think somebody was saying something about why would they be going into the water without, safety equipment? Okay, I think it was Dr. Godwin that was saying that this is something that we need to ensure that it is done, because lives could have been saved if these people were wearing their gears, safety gears. So let's continue to do that. Life jackets,
Guys, this is it. This is it. You've all done it. Today, Friday the 12th, we've put it out on our
Can I add something? Can I add something? This is sad humor. I don't know what to say, but like Orwell Animal Farms, all animals are not equal, even in death. We don't hear about those two people who died alongside the young puppets. It's just sad.
Okay.
We wish them the family condolences.
Yes.
Condolences. Fiona, thank you for coming. Thank you for all you've said. Godwin, thank you. Sir George and our great man Ogbeni Raji. See you guys on Monday on our Between the Lines program. Viewers, thank you.
Viewers, have a wonderful weekend.
Lovely weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend. Yes.